Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from independent_ad1884. AITA. If I distanced myself from two friends who are seeing each other. To provide backstory first, I, 25F, have a close friend we'll call Betty, 25F, who I've known since middle school. We have very different backgrounds and perspectives on life and relationships that were made apparent as we got older and dated more people. She's a serial dater and is almost always seeing someone, if not multiple people at once, only rarely entering a relationship, and they're always unhealthy relationships that end badly, because to be honest, her taste in men isn't great. She pretty much just goes for any semi-attractive man that gives her enough positive attention, and she can develop feelings for. I've always been there for her as an advice giver or shoulder to cry on, and despite her often saying she hates how men treat her, and she's going to try being happy alone, she's always back on dating apps in the week. I've learned that's just who she is, likely as a result of her past being neglected as a teen for her younger siblings and bad experiences with men. She's too trusting, and her heart is on her sleeve, but she's an adult and good friend to me, so to each their own. It does get frustrating to have the same conversation about each man over and over, as if she genuinely has learned nothing from the last one. I, on the other hand, don't really date at all. I'm not particularly interested in a relationship right now, and neither was I in high school. I had two longish-term relationships. One was almost 4 years, and the other was only a year, both of which ended on good terms. I just figure I'm not the relationship type, and I've witnessed a lot of hers crash and burn, so it's easier for me to spot when she's wasting time with a guy. But again, she's an adult, so I may express my concerns when she asks, but otherwise I butt out. We're a part of the same friend circle, and recently added a new guy to the circle who we'll call Adam, 26M. Betty and I became friends with Adam fairly quickly, although she met him a bit before me, as I was out of the state when he was first introduced to the group, as he's a very friendly and likable guy. They gradually developed a flirty relationship and eventually began seeing each other non-exclusively. Throughout this time, Betty was seeing other men she'd met through social media or dating apps, but it was clear she wanted exclusivity with Adam, which at the time, Adam was not interested in as he'd been working on himself, and didn't want to enter a relationship he wasn't ready for. Betty and Adam seeming to agree on a sort of friends with benefits situation. My own friendship with Adam was purely platonic, as he was seeing Betty and I was in a relationship at the time, and I've never had any sort of feelings for him, and still don't. It developed quickly, as we had a lot in common, like both of us were hardcore Skyrim nerds, and he'd often ask me to provide a perspective on his relationship with Betty once they began to really see each other. During this time, Betty was completely fine with this friendship, and made it a point to make that known to both Adam and I. Honestly, at the time, I thought it weird that she felt the need to tell me she trusted us not to disrespect her, even though they were never even together. I never mentioned this but felt this way, and it left a bad taste in my mouth regarding my friendship with Adam, though I tried not to let it show. I made it a point to keep boundaries in place, just to avoid causing issue. They've been on and off friends with benefits, as they'll claim to just be friends, and then randomly start hooking up again. I don't concern myself with this as they're adults and can do what they want. My issue is, I don't want to have any close relationship with any man Betty is seeing in any capacity. I can't explain it, but it feels inappropriate and uncomfortable for me. Her repeated comment about trusting me with Adam has definitely added to this feeling. Whenever I know they're seeing each other, I get an immediate disgusted feeling at the idea of interacting with Adam as closely. This goes away when I'm under the impression they aren't seeing each other. The problem is they never tell me when they're seeing each other again, and will actively go out of their way at times to mislead me and make me think they're just friends. I find this to be disrespectful and wildly unnecessary, as they're adults, and it's their business. They don't owe me any information about their dynamic, but I feel it's weird and hurtful to purposely make me think they're something they aren't. This was a point of contention once when Betty began actively hiding a relationship with a friend of mine from me in high school, because she knew I wouldn't approve and she values my opinion. I was disappointed then at the sneaking and lying, but brushed my feelings under the rug because she was very emotional about it all, and I would have felt like a a-hole for being mad. We never brought it up again, but this feels like that. I'm uncomfortable developing my friendship with Adam. Whenever I know they're seeing each other, it's like a loading screen that pauses at random percentages, those pauses being when they're seeing each other. It's gotten to a point where I no longer want to deal with either of them at all. Not saying I want to completely end my friendship with either, but I no longer want to put forth any effort into developing my friendship with Adam or bolstering my friendship with Betty. We've been growing apart the last few years, which I know is normal, but I've begun to feel like we're too different these days, and her choices, while hers, make me see her differently. And that's not the kind of friendship I want with someone where I can be disrespected for the sake of her relationship with a man. I'm tired of always having to be a shoulder to cry on because she chooses crap men, and I'm tired of always putting my feelings aside because hers are bigger. I know their relationship isn't my business, but they've made it my business in asking for my perspective on their problems, as I don't seek out information about them, nor do I ask, and I'm tired of being involved with them both. I look at them and feel disgusted and annoyed by their behavior with one another and ability to prance around in my face, as if they aren't unnecessarily lying to me. I've expressed before my discomfort at their dynamics and its effect on me, but I don't think I went into enough detail or something for them to take me seriously. Outside of this, they're good friends of mine, and while I value the friendships, I can't separate them from this view I have of them. It sucks because I really do value my friendships with them. My only sibling passed when I was little, and my parents divorced soon after, so I don't have anyone else to talk to about this since we share friends and co-workers. So, AITA? OP is not an AH for protecting her mental and emotional well-being. OP's friends, Betty and Adam, are AHs for hiding things from her and always trying to make her uneasy. So, I would rate OP's friends 3.5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Jaded-Chapter 1. AITA, for not responding to my sister after she ghosted me. I'm 31 and I have 2 siblings. My half-sister, 35F, and my younger brother, 30M. I'm the oldest on my mom's side and the middle child on my dad's side. My sister has 2 kids, and my brother has 1. My sister and I didn't grow up together. My earliest memories of her were when I was about 12 and meeting her. While we had a decent relationship since then, in the past couple of years, we've gotten really close, doing things like taking vacations together and bonding over shared interests. My brother moved out of state several years ago, and he and his ex went through some tough co-parenting struggles. It took a lot of effort, but last summer, my sister and I made plans to visit him and his son with her kids. On the first visit, we had promised my brother's son that we'd be back the following month for his cousin's birthday. I knew I would most likely be exhausted as I had plans prior to promising my nephew a visit, and I was going to be traveling to an engagement party right before the trip, but I was looking forward to this trip as well. While I was on my vacation for the engagement party, I FaceTimed my sister a lot, talking about the upcoming trip and what I was up to while I was on my current vacation. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't. I came back into town and texted my sister to let her know, but I didn't hear back. We hadn't booked the hotel or finalized any details, and she was supposed to handle that. Meanwhile, my brother and his ex were reaching out to confirm our plans. I called and texted her repeatedly, but she didn't respond. I could see she was on social media and traveling around the city, as we share each other's location, so I knew she was alive, but she still ignored me. By Thursday night, both my brother and I were starting to get concerned. He even tried to reach out and got no response. I ended up going on the trip alone while still trying to reach out to her. Nothing. When I came back from the trip, it had been a full week of silence from her. It was now her oldest child's birthday, so I sent a text to wish him a happy birthday. He read the message and didn't reply, and she just ignored my messages altogether, from Facebook to Snapchat to texts. At that point, I was fed up. I messaged her on Facebook, expressing my frustration over her ghosting me and her kids ignoring me too. I also mentioned that I thought we had a better relationship where we could talk openly and without judgment. The next day, I woke up to a long text from her saying she was clocked out, and she later posted some passive-aggressive stuff on Facebook. Still not understanding how being clocked out means you lose the common decency to respond to someone and just let them know you couldn't go on a trip that you were planning and pushing for right up until the week before. Over the next few months, I tried to reach out to her several times, especially when I was struggling mentally and needed support. She continued to ignore me. The last time I reached out, I once again begged her to be the sister I needed. Still nothing. So, I decided to move on without her in my life and stop begging for a relationship with someone who clearly doesn't care to have one with me. Fast forward to this year. It's been around 14 months since she has responded to me. A month ago, I saw that her oldest, on Snapchat, was going on a trip, and we exchanged a few messages. I told them I loved them and to have a great trip. The next day, my sister sent a group text to my brother and me of a few pictures of her son. My brother responded to her, and they had a brief conversation, but I didn't respond since I was driving at the time. About an hour later, I saw on Facebook that my sister was posting passive-aggressive messages about me not responding. I called my brother and told him how weird it was that she was using her child to try to get a reaction from us. I decided not to engage for my mental health and sanity. So, am I the for not responding? I honestly don't plan to. Her ghosting me felt strange, and as a grown adult in her mid-30s, throwing Facebook subtweets just seems immature. OP is not an AH for going no contact with her dismissive half-sister who ghosted her various times. Given her impulsive and unpredictable behavior, OP behavior is 100% justified. As for scores, I would rate OP's sister 2.5 out of 5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Drummer Naive 2646. AITA for telling my parents I'm going to cut them off because they don't support my lifestyle. I'm a 19-year-old trans man, and I've been out since I was around 4th, 5th grade, so close to 10 years now. My parents have always been unsupportive of this. They agree to disagree and expect me to never bring up my transness, even though it's clear as day. My room looks like a guy's room. I don't have any feminine attributes. In public, I am very rarely misgendered, and if I am, it's because of my voice, not my looks. Moving on from that, a couple of months ago, end of September, my parents were on the subject of politics. I mostly stayed quiet as I'm not big on politics, but somehow the subject of trans kids in schools got brought up. My dad talked of his distaste for schools being able to keep it hidden from parents that their child is using a preferred name. I told him that some children could be in danger if their parents knew, and he simply stated he didn't care. I told him that if the reason he was upset was because he thought I did it, I did not. This somehow sent the conversation into a downward spiral, and I eventually was angry, crying and yelling. All of the pent-up stress of years of not being able to talk about this erupting from me. I asked my dad if he would disown me because of how strongly he thought of trans people. He told me he wouldn't, but I shouldn't expect them to call me anything other than my given name/birth gender, I replied, and said that I never expected any support from them, only when I was an innocent kid and thought my parents loved me. This caused him to break down to near tears, saying he's tried to understand me and change, but he just can't. I told him that he hasn't tried, and that there's absolutely no proof of him trying, and he's never even attempted to call me anything different. I guess because I didn't accept his sob story and cry with him, he got extremely enraged. I told him it would be weird if in the future, after I'm on testosterone, he introduced me as his daughter. He said he doesn't see me as a girl or boy, and that no matter the change, I'll never be a man to him. Due to this, I told him I just couldn't have him or my mother, as well as the majority of my immediate family, in my life after I leave the house, as I believe it would affect my mental stability and ability to live free as myself. He told me that was ridiculous, and no reason to block them out because they love me. I know the conversation was mostly just my father, but one of the only things my mother said was that she would kill herself if she were to help me get on testosterone through the insurance I'm on, which is through my mom's job, just to give a bit of insight to how she thinks and why she is included in this as well. There was a lot more, and quite frankly more terrible to this conversation, but I cut most of it out since it's not relevant to the topic. I love my parents a lot, and aside from all of the shit involving me being trans, they have been amazing parents. Despite not having much, they gave me and my sister everything a kid could ever want. There are more good memories with them than bad, especially with my mother, who didn't work for years so she could stay home and raise us. I truly cannot imagine a life without them, but I think it would kill me to have them call me a girl for the rest of my life. It already stings as is, but I've just seen it as something I have to get through for now. I've had so much hope in them being able to change and support me, especially because of how long it's been. But they've barely come around. It seems like they're stuck at the point of tolerating it, but not supporting it. I won't be able to move out for a couple of years still. But AITA for thinking it's the best option to leave them in the past? Is it really a stupid thing to cut them off for? I've been thinking about this since, and I seriously can't shake it. OP is not an AH for cutting off contact with his parents and prioritizing his well-being and mental peace over living with his toxic parents. OP has every right to choose his gender, and OP's parents are AHs for not acknowledging his identity and accepting the way he. So, I would rate OP's parents 3.5 out of 5, and an OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Birthday Dash Gift. AITA for turning down the birthday gift my mom's boyfriend gave me. 14F. I'm kind of confused if I'm in the wrong here. I'm leaning towards that I am, but I want someone else's opinion. My mom started dating a new guy like 6-ish months ago, and I honestly never really liked him. I don't know how to explain it other than he just gives me weird vibes. I've been trying to be nice though because my mom likes him and I want her to be happy. He's been trying to make an effort with me, I think. He'll send me texts throughout the day and pictures. He tells me I'm smart and stuff too, which is nice, but I don't know. I'm just kind of uncomfortable with it. My mom says he's just being nice, but I don't know. Anyway, my birthday was a couple days ago, and he got me a really expensive necklace. He also gave me a ticket to a show that I've been wanting to go see, and he said he has the other one and that we should go together. I just felt like it was too much, and I told him that I was really grateful, but that I couldn't accept them. He got really mad, and he said that he already spent the money, so I should just take it and go with him. But I really didn't want to. It ended with him yelling at me and me basically running away to my bedroom. My family thinks I was too mean and that he's just trying to bond with me. I don't know. AITA? Update. So, if any of you were interested, you were right. My mom's boyfriend was trying to groom me. Apparently, for as much as my family said I was overreacting by turning down his gift, my mom didn't like that he yelled at me. Apparently, while she was pushing him for answers about why he got me something so expensive in the first place, he said something she thought was suspicious. Turns out, he only started dating her because my mom had a picture of her, my older sister, and me on her dating profile, and he wanted to get to me, which is creepy. She said she's taking that picture off her profile now, but also she's not going to go on dates for a while, which I definitely feel bad about. I can't help but feel like it's my fault. But yeah, that's the update. Thank you guys for being so nice. Even if you thought I was being a little stupid, I hadn't really learned much about predators before now. Edit. People keep bringing it up, so maybe some of you can give me advice. In a comment, I mentioned him watching me one weekend by himself and sleeping through most of it. Some of you guys are thinking he drugged me and did something because I only got tired after he made me lunch and I woke up sore. Should I actually tell my mom? I don't really see why it matters, considering it happened like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think I could prove anything anyway. Update 2. I don't know if this will be my last update or not, but I wanted to post it because of how many of you seemed worried about me. I told my mom. It was really hard. I want to say I was brave about it, but I cried a lot and was really scared. I could barely actually say it out loud, so I showed her my Reddit post and what you guys were saying. She told me that I shouldn't trust strangers on the internet, but that she agreed that what happened the weekend he was checking in on me was weird. She took me to the ER right after I told her, even though it's really not an emergency. I don't really understand everything that the doctors did, so please forgive me if I say anything wrong. They made me do a blood test, urine test, and they took some of my hair because they said that some drugs can be detectable for a few weeks after. The urine test came back already, and it was confusing because at first they said it was PCP, but then they said that they did another test, and apparently there are traces of ketamine, so I don't really know if that means I tested positive for both or if it was only ketamine. I mean, I've never taken either of those things, so he definitely drugged me though. They said he probably gave me something else too because how I described it didn't seem like ketamine, but I don't really know what that means. Anyway, I guess we're waiting to see if anything else comes back. They also did a pelvic exam and some ultrasound thing. I don't remember what they called it. They said there was trauma, so I was either or assaulted in some way. I am, or was I guess, a virgin, so there's no debate there. I also don't exactly know how they can tell, but obviously it's their job, so I don't really feel any way about it. But the social worker they brought in said I'm probably in shock. I told them I had gotten my period afterwards with bad cramps, but they told me that it was probably not actually my period and just me bleeding from it. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm still in the hospital currently. I don't really know why, but I am. I'm at least staying till tomorrow apparently. They want me to meet with a psychologist, and they were talking about starting me on some medication. As for police, they've been contacted, but my mom isn't telling me much. I had to answer so many questions earlier. Thank you guys for being so nice. I probably would have never known what happened if someone didn't point it out. I don't know how exactly I feel about that, because maybe it would have been nicer to not know, but still, thanks. I'm also sorry if this post doesn't make sense. I don't really feel like myself. Update 3. Just a short post to my account because I don't want to keep posting stuff to AITA, and this isn't a big one or anything. I was discharged from the hospital and am currently heading home. My mom had my uncle check the house for cameras this morning, like suggested. Thankfully, he didn't find anything. I think I'm going to stop posting updates about everything. I'm not feeling like myself, and I am quite tired of the people PMing me to tell me I'm lying. I wish I was lying to you. For all the questions people keep asking. No, I hadn't been taught much about child predators before this. I was taught stranger danger and to not let an adult touch my privates, and that's it. Maybe I'm an idiot for not learning more before. I mean, how dare I assume I was safe, right? I can't change it now though, and I know more now than I ever wish I had to. I don't know why my mom posted a picture of all of us on a dating app. Yes, all of us realize now it was dumb. I don't know why he outright admitted it. As I've said, I wasn't there for the conversation, and I just know what my mom told me about it. For those of you who were getting annoyed about the urine drug test thing, I did ask my doctor this morning about it because I was curious too. He said they have had people test positive for ketamine in urine up to 14 days after taking it. The weekend I keep talking about was the 26th and 27th, which was 9 or 10 days ago, I guess technically not 2 full weeks ago, so apparently plausible. He also said the PCP was a false positive. The only positive I currently have is ketamine. I'm sorry if I'm being aggressive. I've been bouncing between crying and lashing out this morning, and I'm just so tired. The therapist was nice. I have an outpatient appointment scheduled with a different one in a week. The nurses and doctors were really nice. Apparently, they did an STI panel with the blood they took, but they're still waiting on results. But yeah, that's all the updates you'll get. Probably for a long while if I ever update again. I really want to thank those of you who've been nice to me and have given me advice. Update 4. Hi everyone, I know I said I wasn't planning on updating again, or at least not for a while, but I did think some of you would appreciate the update, and I'm in a bit better of a place now. I think I've finally come to terms with what happened for the most part, anyway. So, last we left off, I had just left the hospital after finding out my mum's ex had drugged and SA'd me when he'd watched me over the weekend. I'm also going to give some warning that this is probably going to be pretty TMI, because I haven't really wanted to talk with people IRL about this. For those of you who were worried about STDs, apparently, he gave me chlamydia. The doctors told me it was a thing that not everyone has obvious symptoms apparently, so it's not weird I didn't know. Which is super weird, because I always assumed STDs hurt really bad. But anyway, I got antibiotics, so all should be good. I also had my first ever appointment with an OB. Gynae, which was weird. She did say there shouldn't be any permanent issues from this, which apparently was a concern of the hospital doctor because of how severe the damage seemed like a week plus out. As for the people who talked about him maybe trying to approach me at school, my mom alerted the school about him. He hasn't showed up at my school or anything, but sometimes I swear I see his car. My therapist, which I've already had 4 appointments with, crazy, said that I should be aware, but that it's more than likely not him, and that it's my anxiety. The police were involved for a while, but they said that without DNA evidence, they couldn't technically prove it was him. I don't know how true that is, but my mom said some very mean words about them, so I'm assuming it was not a great conversation. So I guess we just have to move forward on our own. My mom is no longer on any dating apps. It's gotten more and more obvious to me how guilty she feels, but I think she's slowly starting to act more normal with me and my sister again. She also got a gun and has been working on her aim at the shooting range. Kinda crazy, cause she's always hated guns, but when I asked, she just cursed out the police. I don't really know how to take that, so I'm just rolling with it. I'm sure Thanksgiving is going to be weird, cause basically everyone knows what happened now. But worst case scenario, I'm going to hide from everyone in my bedroom since we're hosting. I'm kind of worried about someone making a comment about it, especially since maybe some of you guessed it because of how little I really knew about and predators and stuff, but a lot of my family is super religious. I'm just worried they'll make comments about me being impure or something. I hope not though. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Things are mostly normal again. Just a bit more therapy, anxiety, and knowledge about this and predators. Thank all of you who have been really kind to me. It's been a weird few weeks. I started painting again yesterday though, so maybe I'm getting back to being me. OP is not an AH for setting her boundaries. She politely handled the situation and showed gratitude. OP's mother's boyfriend is an AH for making her uncomfortable. So I would rate him 3.5 out of 5 and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Undercover Coochie. AITA for not allowing my pedophilic nephew to live with us? I have a nephew, 21M, who wants to move in with my husband, 29M, and me, 28F. For context, my nephew and I were raised more like siblings than nephew and aunt. My sister, his mom, is a real POS. She had my nephew at 18 and never wanted to be a mom. She pawned him off, and eventually, her 2 other kids, on whoever would take them so she could party and sleep around. For the first 5 years of my nephew's life, they lived with my parents. Over the years, they moved back and forth, but my sister was abusive, mentally, emotionally, and physically. My nephew never had stability or a proper role model. To avoid going into too much detail, I'll fast forward to when my nephew was about 16. He and my sister got into a huge argument, and she kicked him out to live with our parents again. He stayed there until he was 18. Then, one day, he told my parents he was moving out and that his girlfriend's mom was coming to pick him up. His girlfriend was 14 and lived over 1,300 miles away. He lived there with his girlfriend and her mom for 3 years. 4 days ago, the mom kicked both him and his now 17-year-old girlfriend out. Now, some backstory on us. This is a lot, but I think it's important. My husband and I live about 370 miles away. We own a small house on some property and currently don't have kids. We have a history of helping people and getting screwed over for it. When we rented a place before buying our house, we had a roommate who was a longtime work buddy of my husband. He was a slob and didn't help with anything, even though it was in our agreement. When we moved and bought our house, we told him he wasn't coming with us. His family gave him a 5th-wheel camper to live in, and he lived in that until he eventually moved back to his hometown. The problem was that he didn't have a way to move the trailer. We were dumb and said he could park the trailer on our property, with the understanding that he would come get it a few months later. That was 6 years ago. After multiple attempts to get him to come get it, it's still here. About a year after we moved into our house, a buddy called us asking if we had a couch he could sleep on as his wife had kicked him out. We decided to help him and picked his up off the literal curb with a trash bag of clothes and let him stay with us while he figured things out. This guy was young 20s and had made some dumb decisions. He had gotten a Harley with a 20% interest rate, then got his girlfriend pregnant after a month of dating, got married to her, bought a car that eventually got repoed, and then his wife started a divorce before the kid was even a year old. Needless to say, he ended up staying with us longer than a few nights, eventually renting our spare bedroom. At first, he paid rent, but this was negated by the fact he ate our food and borrowed our car pretty regularly to get to work. Then, when he started long-haul trucking, he'd come back every few weeks for a few days to a week at a time but kept all his stuff in our spare room. We agreed to have him stop paying rent and use that money to pay off debt so he could move out. That took another 3 years. For 5 years, we didn't have access to our only spare room. Out of the 7 years we've had our house, 5 of them have involved someone else living here. Other people have also stored things here way longer than they said they would, or just abandoned crap. But these are the major situations. Back to my nephew. When he first moved in with his girlfriend 3 years ago, we told him to reach out if he needed help. I'll be honest, I figured he would break up with his girlfriend and would need help getting back to his grandparents on the other side of the country. When they reached out a few days ago, they asked if he and his underage girlfriend could live with us. We immediately said no to her staying here. She's a minor, still in high school, and we live in a different state. Ignoring the age difference for a moment, all it would take is one call to the police from her bipolar mother to ruin our lives. When we made that offer to help 3 years ago, we were in a much better financial and mental place. Now, we're not. We reached out to my parents, but they're also not stable. My dad is retired, and both of my parents have health issues. My mom is currently going through cancer treatments. My nephew has no car, no license, no money, and I'm not even sure he has his GED. He has no plan. So AITA for not wanting to let my nephew live with us long term, let alone him and his girlfriend? Is it wrong that I don't want another person living in our house, especially two? I feel obligated to help, but I really don't want to. He is coming here soon to stay temporarily, so he doesn't sleep on the street while she stays with another family member. From talking with them, they have this idea in their head that they will both be here eventually. I understand we have been too nice to people in the past and let them walk all over us. We now just want to be left alone to actually live our lives privately. OP is not an AH for standing up to protect her privacy and well-being. OP's nephew is an adult and should be independent by now. OP's nephew should be grateful that OP and her husband are providing temporary shelter for him and his girlfriend. OP's nephew should behave like an adult, not a dependent individual. He is an AH for being too demanding, so I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.